Do you have a Samsung front load dryer? Kind of like this one right here. Could be just about any model that's been made in the last 10, 15 years. And does it sound like this? Oh boy, sounds like a bearing's about to go out or something in it, doesn't it? Well, actually, that's what I thought too when I first heard the sound on this, and I thought, boy, the drum must have like a shaft coming off the back of it or something, and the bearing that that shaft rides on is probably going bad. I could think, oh my God, just taking that thing apart and repairing it's going to be a nightmare. But actually, from what I hear, these are not designed like that whatsoever, and should be pretty simple to install. Um, the drum itself, let me draw you a picture here actually, and I'll show you how this thing is designed to. Okay, I'm gonna borrow my daughter's whiteboard here and draw a drum. I'm looking through my camera lens, so hey, that ended up pretty good. That is the drum if you're looking at it from the front. There is going to be a roller right here and right here, front and back, that this drum sits on. So if you're looking at it like from a side view, oops, pretend that, there we go, you'd see it sitting on this roller on each side. And it just rides on those little rollers. Down here on the corner, there's another little roller that like loops under something to go to a motor or whatever, and it ends up anyway, the belt going around it and coming back over here to the set of rollers. I probably got the actual, the way it's tensioned wrong on the picture there. I'm pretty sure I do. But this piece here pulls the roller down, or the whole drum down, a little bit harder. It's on a spring tension there, and as this turns, it turns the whole drum, which is sitting on these rollers like little logs or something. I'll show you the parts here. These are the parts in the bag. These are the rollers, and this is that tension wheel and a new belt. Let's get these things out of the bag and see what they look like. But we're going to be replacing these today. You can find these sets like this on all kinds of websites, eBay, Amazon, your various appliance repair sites, stuff like that. Pretty reasonable too. I think these kits combined probably cost me like 40 bucks or something, maybe 50 tops. So it's pretty cheap. Let me get these out of the bag and we'll take a look at the parts themselves. And these are the parts right here. This is little rollers that the drum sits on. And the ones from the factory, this little section where the shaft goes through is just like a brass bushing or something, some sort of a bushing, plastic bushing, something like that. The replacements are, if you can hear it there, you get that sound that's typical of ball bearings. So these things should never wear out. As long as the rubber doesn't give out, then the roller itself should never wear out. Likewise on this one is also mounted on a roller bearing instead of a bushing. So theoretically, this should not wear out either. And then there is my replacement belt, which has a ribbed section on one side and flat section on the other. And I don't know which is which. We'll find out when we get it apart. So to get started on this, what do? First thing I need to do is reach around to the back where it's plugged in, and I can move the dryer out. It's easy enough just to move it. Now I'm going to unplug it. Safety first. Always unplug your electrical appliances before you work on them. So I'm going to unplug that and move it out a little bit so I can get to the back of this. So we can disconnect that and have room to work here. Alright, I've got it unplugged from power. I'm just undoing this clamp here so that I can pop that off out of the way. Move that over there out of the way. That's good enough. And now I've got room to move the entire dryer around to do whatever I want to with it. Most of what I'm going to be using here is just basic tools like a screwdriver. To get started on most of these models, this top needs to come off. And if you look right here, there are 2 big screws that need to come off. And this entire piece just kind of slides forward out of the way. Now when you go to put it back on, notice that it has these tabs right here, and this one's kind of messed up over here. Those tabs slide up under these little silver pieces here. There's a gap between the base of this and the bottom of that silver piece, and they slide up under there like the tines of a fork. When you get this taken out, one thing I like to do is just put the screw right back in there. That way I know where it is and I haven't lost it. Next thing I'm going to want to do, I'll get you over here and show you. There are screws right on top here for this piece to come off. And I think I just got to get the screws off of the plastic piece, and those come forward. I just dropped my screwdriver. Oops, wrong way. This is also a good time to have a vacuum cleaner handy, so you can clean all the dust and stuff that you're going to find, and the pocket change that you're going to find down below the drum. Already, as I take a look at it though, I can see that belt that goes around the drum, and it just sits right here in the very center. There's not a groove or anything there, that's just dirt from years of use. So this I should be able to start bringing away now. And I gotta look. I may have to take this off first. Let me go back and look at my written directions that I had. I may have to take these bolts out right here real quick so that I can pull this section off first. I think I might. Nope, I was right on. These, if you look down there, see these tabs? I just needed to lift up a little bit to get these out of the slots where they slot into. That's all. And on this particular one, I've got connectors on the back side of this that unplug. I can't get to it where it goes in back here. There's going to be connectors on the back side of this I've got to unplug. And if I can't get to it with my fingers from here, which I may not, I've just got to take out these couple of little screws here and set the whole thing off to the side. So let me get that taken care of. I'm going to need more than one hand for that. Okay, I've got that taken off, and the only real reason I want to do that is I just need to get this out of the way so it doesn't get damaged. And these are push. There's little tabs on the back side of these. I see a little tab right there. And on this one that you can't see because the wires are in the way, there's a little tab there too. You just push these and those slide right out. So let me do that real quick. Again, I'll need two hands, and I'll move that out of the way. Alright, and as I go, I'm putting my screws right back where I got them so that I don't lose them, and I can set that off to the side. While I'm here, I think I'm going to have to end up taking this off just so I can lift the drum out. So this ground wire is in the way right there. We're going to want to get that taken off. And you don't want to forget that when you put it back on. There is a symbol right there. If you ever see that symbol means ground. That means a ground wire is supposed to be attached there. So, got that. Now, if you'll look, there are screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 there. And I believe we also have to take out this one, and these two. Whoops. These two. That one, those on that tab. The two on that tab. And this will slide forward, and then you can lift the whole thing up and out of the way. So let me see if I can get that done for you guys. We'll come back to it. Might need to back up a little bit further here. Oh well, let's see what we can do. I'm gonna get one, two, three, four up at the top, and I'm going to take this and set it aside as well. And you may need to take your knee and brace up against this as you take these off so that it doesn't fall straight for your face. Yep. Oh, okay. And we did not need to remove these two. Just these two here and the four up top. And you see how it tries to lean out forward. Now, the reason you want to do that also is look back behind here. And there's a connector. I just want to take this, pull it loose, and it just wiggles in. Now, this door is ready for me just to pick it up off the slots down there, and I can set this off to the side. So I'll lean this up against the wall out here, and then there's the front of the dryer. Next thing we want to do is take these two screws, this screw and this one out, and this whole piece here should lift right out of the way. Alright, I have the screws out of that. There was one more right there that I didn't notice. On the back side of this though, notice this cable has this little cable tie. You've got to just undo that little cable tie so that slides out, and then you can take this off and set it aside. So I'm going to set that back behind me. And then I do believe the next thing we've got to do is remove this screw, this screw, this screw, this screw, and this one. Maybe a little bit more. This, I see a screw right there and a screw right there. So probably this plate right here has to come out of the way. At some point, I think you can just lift the drum out as it is. You may be able to lift the drum out right here, but I think I'm going to remove this plate to make it a little bit easier to get to. So let's remove this bottom piece first. I see a bolt there, there, and there. So it looks like just three, maybe four. Let's remove those and see what happens. Okay, so I just had to remove that screw, that screw, that screw, and that one to remove this, and this just sits in here. This slides right up onto this piece right here. This is your lint filter, where your lint filter goes. So now that you've got this thing off, it is a really good idea to clean that sucker, because you know, if you look down in there, even though I've cleaned mine recently, it's got junk down in it already. So, I mean, look at that. And I just cleaned mine like 2 months ago. Also, the squirrel cage fan here. It is a really good idea to get down in there and clean this out. This is the fan. Look, I mean, look at all this stuff that's in there. This is the fan that runs the whole show here. And if you notice, as I turn this, my drum is turning too. The motor ties directly into this and spins it at high speed. And then there is a pulley on the back of it that the belt moves around this entire drum and spins the drum. So again, as you go, every chance you get, you know, inside here, clean everything up as you go. So I'm going to get this front piece off here. I got to get my ties for the wires undone up here. There's one here, loop those off to the side, and there's one over here with a plug here that I've got to undo. And this whole thing should come right out. So let me get that taken care of. Alrighty, this is what it looks like. This is going to be a little bit persnickety to get off. If you look on those tabs where the screws were, there's other little tabs sticking out of the tabs on the tabs. And those tabs go into these slots right here and down here on each side. They go in and slide down, so when you take it off, you've got to slide it up and then pull the whole thing away. This is going to kind of fit around this piece right here, and that's what makes your seal to this. And the felt on this is in pretty darn good shape all the way around. I do want to inspect it, so I'm not worried about the drum on the front. These are the old ones. Again, I want to take every opportunity I can to clean while I go. These are not in bad shape. So these front ones most likely were not the source of the noise. But on this shaft, see there's flats on the side. All I've got to do is I think it's a 1/4 inch. Get me a 1/4 inch wrench and turn. There's nuts on the back. I may have to back hold. I'm not sure. If I look at the back side of this, there's the nuts. And I think that's a 7/8. I'm not sure. We'll have to take a look. 11/16 to 7/8, something along those lines. But I may have to hold a wrench on those to get this out. But it's real easy to get out otherwise. So let me get these ready to swap out, and I'll get right back to you. All right, so all I'm going to use is a couple of crescent wrenches, really, instead of tracking everything down. I got a crescent wrench to hold this on the back, and I've got one for this flat. And I already broke this one loose, but it is just a matter of breaking it loose and twisting it off. It's that easy. There is a washer here, and on the back side of this there's a washer with this nut also. On the new one you get the nut, but you don't get the washers. So you're going to want to reuse those washers. Put a washer back behind the nut there on the back. Line it up. And then I'm going to take the other washer and set it down onto this. Set that right back into there. Screw it back on. It's even the same size, everything. Oops, might want to tighten instead of loosen. Make sure those are good and tight. That one's done, so all I've got to do is repeat the process here. I think I loosened it up a little too much. Was on there nice and tight. So there's that one off. washers. All I'm doing is just using that shaft to make sure those are centered down there. And I put this in. There we go, twisting it back on. Dang it. I use my left hand, it gets me all backwards. Okay, those are on and ready to go. Really nice. The roller bearings on these are a bit noisier perhaps than the bushings that were on these, but they should last a lot longer. And I'll take that little bit of noise over what it's doing right now any day. So now I've got to get the drum out. So let me get ready for that and I'll show you guys what you need to do next. Okay, so for this next section we're going to look in back behind the squirrel cage fan, and you're going to see that white roller back there, and if you can tell, the belt is looped around it. What you have to do, that has a spring on it. You're going to have to basically push down on the roller so that you can undo the belt. You're going to have to get your hand down in there. See, it loops on the around that roller. Push down on the roller, or pull up on it, I guess, so that you can relieve that spring tension and get that belt off. So, and that's that's one of those things where you just gotta take your hand, reach it back in there, and feel around for it. That spring is pretty tight. So, do the best you can. But this has a little tab on it that's going to keep it from trying to pop off. So, this has a little tab on that that's in there to keep it from popping off, like right here or something. I don't know. But anyways, let me see if I can get that off. It's going to be this is a little bit of a pain to get in there to do that. Okay. So this little piece sits in there kind of like that you saw. And I found if you put one arm in through here, you can pull this way, was it? You can pull to get the tension off of this to get the belt off the back side of this. So this bracket arm keeps the belt in on this side, and the lip of this keeps it in on this side. So you've got to pull this way, I think it was, to reduce the tension, or one of the ways. You'll see when you get in there. When we get the drum out. But now that the belt is off, there's nothing holding the drum in. So I can pull the drum forward slightly. And I'll see if I can just put this back here so you guys can see a little bit of what's going on. And I should just be able to use the belt as a lifting device. See, now it's got slack. Just pull the whole thing out in front. This drum is actually really light. 2 pounds. Well, maybe 5 pounds, but you get the idea. But that's it. The dryer is very much apart right now. So you see on the back, there's the other ones that we've got to swap out. And this right here, I can already feel this does not want to turn hardly at all. That's probably what's making my noise right there. This is your heating element. That's your primary motor. And I think that thing just sits in place. I might be able to just lift it up. But if not, I see screws here. It's probably, No, I think it's slotted. I think it's slotted. So there might be a couple of things holding it in place. We'll see what we need to do to get it out, and we'll get back to you in just a second here. Alrighty, first things first, I did a little vacuuming to clean this out, make sure it's nice and clean. Oops. Now if I come around to the back of this, there were 3 screws, one there, there, and there that I took out, and I see one there, and there, and there, and there, and if I take those out, I believe this whole piece here will just lift right out. So let me try that. Okay, those are in. What I did, I abandoned the approach that I was taking instead of lifting this out, because I found out this is attached as well, and I didn't want to have to figure out how to remove that. I think you just remove it from the front and unclip all this stuff, but instead of messing with that, I found out that I could take my wrench, like for this one, I could just get back behind there, and I'm on it right now. I can hold it and then undo the front, and the same over there. And really, it took me 5 minutes to replace those. A little fidgety getting the washers to hold themselves in places as well. But what I found out is if you stick the threaded part back through the hole, you can take your fingers and then put it up and put the washer on that, and then get your bolt back up in there and start spinning it back on, and it's a piece of cake after that. So those are in place. I'm going to put my screws back on the outside of this, because I didn't need to take them off after all. And then we will come back and replace this. All right, so this piece goes in to replace this one right here. There is a spring on it, and when it's all the way down like this, the spring is really easy to pull out. That goes right on this tab here. See, and that's a switch to let you know if there's something wrong with the drum, like the belt breaks or something. And there is a single Phillips screw right there holding it in. It's a big sucker, so you may need a bigger screwdriver. Like I got a fairly small one, and I don't think it's going to work. It needs a bigger one, so let me get a bigger Phillips and we'll get that off. All right, the old one is down there. We want to match them up, make sure they do match, and they do. So this is just a matter of putting the new screw in right there, setting it back in place here. Oops, I can't see. And then tightening that back down with my big Phillips there. And you want to make sure that's nice and tight in there, and it is. Oops. Okay, that's better. Might have been bound up there. Oh yeah, I had it. And when that's nice and tight, this should still move. Yeah, it does easily. And then I just hook my spring back up, which is really hard to do with the opposite hand. And that's back on. So the hardest part of putting it back together when I set the drum back down in here is getting my hand back in here to put this back on. Your belt is going to go around this just like it was before, and then wrap up through that or something like that. I think it goes down from the drum, across the back side of this, and then over this. Yeah, that's how it went. So, let's get the drum, set it back down in place, and see what we can see. Alrighty, I got the drum set back in place. The new belt, I should have had this taken out of the box and stretched out for a few days. If you lose track of which side is which, it's actually labeled. If you rotate the drum, there's a spot that says front. So I think, so I can keep this thing centered here, I might try to put that front cover back on. Let me see what I did with that. I don't even know where I put it here. Oh, it's lost. It is lost. I'll find the front cover and see if I can put that back on or whether I need it out of the way to route that belt through. I may need it out of the way. So let me take a quick look. Yeah, so if I were to take the front cover and put it back on here, I don't think I could get my hands in there the way I need to. So I'm going to have to route that belt back through there. And then it's going to be a little wobbly back here, I know. But it's setting on the rollers down there. The rollers actually go inside this lip, so it'll stay on the rollers. That's no problem. So we'll see if we can get that taken care of, and then we can put the front back on. Okay, got it back on. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit there, and I'll show you. Basically, if you take a look, it comes off the drum, that top belt there, and it actually has to go under the roller. It has to loop under the roller and then onto the motor over here. So the whole thing comes back behind here. And now, when that motor spins, it turns the drum also. And it spins this as well. So, that's in place. Now to get the front panel back on. The front cover sitting back in place now. And I've got to remember to plug everything in. But basically what you want to do is kind of set it up there so that the rollers here and here are ready to go. And to put your hand in and lift up on the drum from the inside so that you could slot the drum back into this little detent that it has there, and then hang it back in these. And these sides flop. See, I mean, that's floppy, so you may have to pull it back in to hang it in place, but now it's just a matter of putting the screws back in and then reversing order and putting everything back together. Alright, front is mounted back up. My connector there is done. I think that is the door sensor or something. And I have made sure that this turns nicely. Looks great. The belt is facing the right way. The non-ribbed or flat side should be on the outside. So that works well. So now let's get our connector piece that connects our fan to the lint trap. Alrighty, as you can see, that is back in place. This is just setting up here right now, but next is to put this in. Before you do, you want to make sure you got your wire back in the little harnesses, the little keepers there. So I'm going to put this back on, and then I'll be able to mount the front door back on, I do believe, and then the instrument panel, and then the top, and then we should be done. Okay, got this mounted up there. Don't forget to loop your wires back through the hole here and connect your ground wire. So now I'm going to take the door, set it down onto the little feet here. That it just kind of slots right into that, and then you can connect all this stuff up here. Don't forget your sensor here. And I got to take my screws out because I got my screws in place here so I don't lose track of them. So I got to remove those and get those ready. There's going to be 2 down here, 2 here, and 2 over here to put the door back on. Alright, and now I have this plugged back into my control board. Make it pretty easy. The white connector goes into the white plug, black connector goes into the black plug, and just push it until it stops and kind of clicks into place. This I'm going to put back on here with the 5 screws, and then that screws back onto the top of here with 4 screws in, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all we've got left is to put the top back on, get our vent connected, and plug her back in. Just got to tighten these screws down now, and this panel will be in. And one thing I did not mention previously that is always a good practice, get all your, when you're putting a component back in place, get the screws and stuff started first. just so they're in there, then tighten them down. Because you might tighten one down here and then one down here and they're slightly off kilter. And by the time you get over this way, it may jack that piece way up so that the holes don't align. So just put them in there loosely to get them started for all the holes first, and then tighten them down. You'll make your life a lot easier. Now let's get the top on. All right, guys. Got to crouch down a little bit because the camera gets the light above me and kind of makes the colors all screwy. So, dryer's in, vent's hooked up, it's plugged in. As you can see, I got a display. Now comes the moment of truth. Let's turn it on and see what happens. And now is that moment where if things don't go right, we're gonna cry. Oh my gosh, listen to it. It sounds awesome. It's so quiet. Oh, this hasn't sounded like this in years. I've been putting up with the sound that it was making for so long, not thinking that I had a hope or a chance of fixing it. And look, in just a little bit of time, we replaced all those parts that were making the noise. We fixed it. So if I can do this, I know it's a little bit daunting removing all these pieces and parts, but if you've got half of a knowledge about how to take things apart and put them back together, you can do this. This is something you can do in your home. Keep this video with you. Watch it as you go and follow along with me. And if I can do it, you can do it. The hardest part, like I said, was the routing of that cable. Just making sure you've got it routed properly and understand how it's routed. Other than that, everything on here was fairly simple. Maybe a little bit finicky, like getting to the back side of those nuts to take those rear rollers off. And then putting them back in place and holding it all in place without removing that thing. But it was doable. I could have used a wrench. I just had 2 adjustable wrenches. However, whatever, you don't need a lot of fancy tools to do this either. Other than 2 crescent wrenches and a larger and a smaller Phillips, that's all I needed. Nothing else. That's the only tools I needed the entire time. So if you need to do this, you could go out to a Harbor Freight or a Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that. Buy the tools that you need for probably $15, $20 maybe to get good stuff. And buy the kit and replace those parts yourself, because replacing the dryer costs a whole lot more than that. So anyway, there we are. We have a nice quiet dryer again. I am very pleased, and I hope you guys were able to get something out of this. I'm going to do a load of clothes.